Stranger at the gala, I locked him out after he pretended not to know me. Prologue, humiliation under crystal chandeliers. The ceiling of Vera Grand Ballroom was draped with thousands of hand-cut crystal pendants, casting warm golden light over rows of polished marble floors. Floor-to-ceiling French windows framed the city's skyline, where countless billionaire skyscrapers glittered against the indigo night sky. This annual Imperial Wealth Gala was the most exclusive social event in the entire state. Every attendee controlled billions in assets. Each family's name carried decades of old money weight. For 2 years, I had been Elara Voss, the official fiancée of Kael Rothwell, sole heir to Rothwell Global Group, the undisputed overlord of regional real estate and finance. Our engagement photo had covered the front page of Manor Elite magazine. Our names were printed side by side on the gala's platinum guest list. Society gossips hailed us as the perfect power couple, a merger between the steady, wealthy Voss clan and the aggressive Rothwell empire. I once believed that too. I adjusted the thin strap of my custom emerald silk gown, fabric embroidered with hand-woven gold thread that shimmered every time I shifted my weight. This dress had been Kael's anniversary gift 3 weeks prior. He held my waist in the boutique and whispered that this would be the gown everyone remembered when we announced our wedding date at tonight's gala. My diamond engagement ring glinted on my left hand, 3 carats of emerald-cut stone set in white gold. I spent countless nights imagining our future in the hillside villa we co-designed, the life we would build side by side. All of that fragile illusion shattered the second the grand ballroom's double oak doors swung open. A hush swept through the venue instantly. Mid-conversation chatter died out. Champagne flutes froze halfway to guests' lips. Every pair of eyes locked onto the man stepping into the spotlight. Kael Rothwell. He wore a tailored black velvet tuxedo, platinum stitching lining the sharp lapels, his raven hairstyle in the sleek, polished cut that made him the most sought-after bachelor in high society. His storm gray eyes that had stared at me with soft adoration every morning for 2 years swept across the crowd, never once landing on my figure standing beside the champagne tower 10 meters away. Tucked tightly against his arm was a woman I recognized instantly, Lila May, his secret mistress. 23 years old, sun-bleached blonde waves spilling over her bare shoulders, white doe-like hazel eyes masked with deliberate innocence. Her scarlet silk gown clung to her curves, a stark, provocative contrast to my muted emerald dress. Every detail of her styling was intentional, a silent challenge thrown directly at me for all the elite crowd to witness. Rumors had haunted the upper social circles for half a year. Whispers of a young model sneaking out of Kael's downtown penthouse at dawn, private yacht trips with only the 2 of them, luxury jewelry deliveries sent to an anonymous downtown apartment that did not belong to any Rothwell family member. I found hidden receipts in his suit pockets, late-night text threads he'd quickly lock his phone to hide, endless flimsy excuses about all-night business meetings that reeked of lies. I did not confront him then. I was not waiting for apologies or false remorse. I was waiting to see just how far his arrogance and betrayal would stretch, how publicly he would discard me before I struck back with unshakable calm. Now he walked slowly down the central staircase, Lila's head tilted sweetly against his shoulder, their bodies pressed so close there was no space between them. Hidden cameras tucked within floral centerpieces clicked non-stop, capturing the scene for tomorrow's tabloid front pages. The wealthy guests watched with thinly veiled curiosity, already sensing a catastrophic social scandal unfolding before their eyes. I stood rigid beside the champagne fountain, my posture straight and unshaken. There was no path for Kael to cross the ballroom without passing directly in front of me. He could not avoid my gaze forever. When his gray eyes finally collided with mine, a split second of panic flickered across his face, just a single heartbeat of hesitation, where the man who once loved me fought against the cruel version of himself he'd become. Then the cold, performative social smile slid back onto his lips. He raised his champagne flute high, his deep, resonant voice echoing across the silent ballroom for every guest to hear clearly. Good evening, everyone. Let me introduce my date for tonight, Lila May. His arm tightened hard around Lila's waist, pulling her flush against his torso, branding her as his companion in front of hundreds of powerful business partners, family elders, and social journalists. He turned his head toward me, tone casual, dismissive, laced with icy indifference. As for the lady in green over there, I've never met her before tonight. She's just a stranger. A collective, shocked gasp rippled through the entire room. Gloved hands flew to cover open mouths. Quiet, frantic whispers erupted all around me. Every single gaze burned into my frame, waiting for the hysterical breakdown they all anticipated. They expected tears, screaming, a dramatic outburst that would humiliate the Voss family name in front of the entire elite world. Kael expected it too. I spotted the faint arrogant lift of his chin, the quiet confidence in his expression that I would crumble without his status and protection. He underestimated me completely. I set my untouched champagne flute down on the marble bar with a sharp, clear click that cut through the murmurs like a blade. I smoothed the emerald silk of my gown with one gloved palm, straightened my shoulders, and stepped forward with slow, unhurried grace, the quiet pose drilled into every Voss heir since childhood. Our two families held equal wealth and influence. Kael had always foolishly overlooked that critical fact. I stopped directly in front of him and Lila. I could see the triumphant glint in Lila's eyes up close, the faint smirk she could not fully hide beneath her makeup. Kael's jaw tightened, his fake polite smile wavering as I closed the distance between us. Every camera, every hidden phone lens, every watchful eye locked onto our three figures. I held his storm gray gaze steady, my voice even and perfectly modulated, loud enough for every guest in the ballroom to catch every word. If I am a stranger to you, Kael Rothwell, I said flatly, no tremor, no trace of sorrow or rage, our engagement is terminated, effective immediately. A louder, explosive gasp crashed through the crowd. Lila's self-satisfied smile shattered completely, her face draining pale beneath her blush and contour. Kael's polished composure split open, raw shock flashing across his features before he could mask it. I lifted my left hand, twisting the 3-carat emerald ring off my finger, the ring he'd slipped onto me beneath the rosewood gazebo on our second anniversary. I held the diamond band between my thumb and forefinger, letting the chandelier light bounce off its facets. Once a symbol of forever, now nothing more than a meaningless stone. You disown me in front of this entire room of associates and family, I continued, cold finality coating every syllable, so I revoke our engagement in return. There will be no wedding, no cross-family asset merger, no shared future between the Voss and Rothwell clans. I dropped the ring straight into the breast pocket of his velvet tuxedo jacket. The metal clinked softly against his chest, a quiet, irreversible severance of everything we built together. Enjoy your stranger's company for the rest of the gala. I flicked a cold glance at the trembling Lila. I will not be returning to our shared villa when this event ends. Without another word, without a single backward glance, I turned on my heel and walked toward the grand exit. The crowd parted for me as if I carried an invisible shield of authority. No guest dared step into my path. The woman everyone expected to fall apart was walking away with more dignity than anyone in this gilded, hollow ballroom could ever claim. Behind my retreating back, I heard Kael snap my name, sharp and desperate, his arrogant mask fully shattered. Elara. I did not slow my pace. I pushed open the heavy carved exit doors, stepping out into the crisp night wind carrying the faint salt tang of the distant ocean, and left him stranded beneath the crystal lights, his mistress clinging to his arm, a discarded engagement ring tucked in his pocket, and hundreds of judgmental elite stares boring into his spine. This was only the opening act of my reckoning. Chapter 1, Rewrite every log, erase every trace. My black armored town car glided through the iron security gates of Asher Ridge Estates as midnight spilled over the hilltop. This gated enclave housed the wealthiest real estate in the state, winding oak-lined roads flanked by manicured hedges, private infinity pools, and sprawling modern villas hidden behind acres of private lawn. Our home sat at the highest peak of the ridge, a three-story limestone and glass mansion with floor-to-ceiling ocean views. The property we'd spent 12 months co-designing and renovating 2 years prior. The villa loomed dark as I stepped out of the vehicle. Not a single warm lamp glowed behind the glass walls. Kael had always controlled the smart lighting system, programming soft golden ambience for our quiet night scene, but tonight the house sat cold and lifeless, mirroring the depth of our engagement. I grabbed my small silk clutch and dismissed the driver, climbing the heated stone walkway to the front entrance. 3 access credentials existed for this property: Kael's master biometric pass, the housekeeper's secondary service card, and my personal resident keycard. I swiped my card against the smart lock, and the heavy glass front door slid open silently. Silence swallowed me the second I crossed the threshold. The 30-foot floating staircase curved upward to the second floor, a minimalist water feature trickling soft water in the marble floor's corner. The air still clung to Kael's signature sandalwood cologne, a ghostly reminder of 2 years of shared mornings and nights within these walls. I wandered past the 20-seat marble formal dining table, the floor-to-ceiling library wall, the ocean view fireplace in the great room, and paused dead center of the open living space. I had turned this cold architectural shell into a home. I'd selected every oil painting hung on the walls, ordered every linen set, planted every herb on the rooftop garden, organized every shelf inside his walk-in closet. Once, this villa had felt like our safe haven. Now it was just an expensive, empty building stripped of all meaning. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd pre-saved 6 months ago, a contact I'd prepared for the exact crisis unfolding tonight. The call picked up on the second ring, a technician's low, professional tone without wasted pleasantries. Ms. Voss, we have maintained standby status per your advanced security agreement. Execute Protocol Omega, I said, voice calm amid the silent mansion. Full lock replacement for Villa 17 Asher Ridge. All exterior entry hardware, all smart lock access panels, all biometric and digital user permissions. Revoke every existing credential except my primary resident profile. A bit of pause passed on the line as the technician processed the magnitude of my request. To confirm, permanent removal of Mr. Rothwell's master access code, keycard clearance, fingerprint unlock, and facial recognition authorization. No temporary emergency overrides will be active. Affirmative, I answered without hesitation. No bypasses, no temporary access. He is fully locked out indefinitely. Understood. Our security team is 4 minutes from the estate main gate. Full hardware swap and system reprogramming will finish within 80 minutes. You will receive digital copies of all new access codes and physical key sets upon completion. I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my gown's hidden pocket. I had planned this long before tonight's gala humiliation. Society painted me as quiet, gentle, dependent on Kael's Rothwell fortune and social status. They assumed the understated Voss family owed money built on patient investment, not flashy media headlines, was weaker, less ruthless, less prepared for outright war. That was Kael's fatal mistake. He spent 2 years underestimating my family's legacy and my own capacity for cold, calculated self-preservation. The Voss empire had never relied on explosive public fights to win disputes. We observed, waited, mapped every opponent's weakness, then struck with irreversible, quiet force. From the moment the first rumors of Lila surfaced half a year ago, I laid every contingency plan into motion. Retaining a high-net-worth residential security firm, pre-authorizing full lock replacement protocols, filing legal documentation outlining my joint property rights, and cataloging every entry point Kael could possibly use to force entry into the villa. He believed the deed's primary listing under his name granted him full control of this house. He thought he owned every lock, every code, every right to walk through these doors at any hour he pleased. He ignored the legal fine print. The villa was jointly titled throughout our engagement period. I covered half the 7-figure renovation costs, curated all interior assets, and held equal equitable claim to the property. After his public betrayal tonight, I held every moral and legal right to erase him from the space we built side by side. While waiting for the security team's arrival, I began stripping every trace of his existence from the mansion, piece by piece. I climbed the floating staircase to the west wing master closet, a vast space split evenly down the center. My couture gowns, diamond jewelry, and custom leather handbags lined the left rack. Kael's bespoke suits, limited edition leather shoes, and luxury watch collection filled the right side. I dragged pre-ordered sealed storage bins from under the cabinetry and packed his belongings with mechanical, unemotional precision. Hand-stitched velvet tuxedos, cashmere winter sweaters, Italian leather loafers, gold cufflinks, the rare watch collection he bragged about to every business associate, all of it folded and sealed away without a single lingering glance. No tears blurred my vision, no rage coiled in my chest. I sorted his possessions like an archivist packing away a chapter of history I had no desire to revisit. Once the closet was emptied of all his belongings, I moved to the master and suite bathroom. I boxed his imported anti-aging skincare line, custom straight razor set, every bottle of his sandalwood cologne, the scent that lingered in every room, and wiped the marble vanity counters clean with disinfectant wipes, erasing every trace of his daily routine. Next came the master bedroom. I stripped the silk duvet we picked out together on our trip to Italy, tossed the throw pillows he loved to lean against while reading finance journals, and collected every framed vacation photograph of us, dropping them into a labeled burn box stored beneath the bed. Every shared memory captured on film was set aside to be destroyed, no lingering reminders left to clutter my home. I wandered through the home office afterward, gathering his leather-bound financial ledgers, custom engraved fountain pens, and family heirloom desk clock gifted to him by his grandfather. Each item went into a separate storage crate marked with his name, ready to be shipped to his downtown penthouse once the locks were fully replaced. By the time I finished clearing every room of his personal belongings, the security team's black service truck rolled up the front driveway, bright work lights cutting through the dark lawn. 3 uniformed technicians stepped out, carrying industrial lock hardware, digital reprogramming tablets, and heavy-duty toolkits. They greeted me with quiet professionalism and split into teams to replace every exterior lock, front glass door, side garden entrance, rooftop terrace access, garage bay door, and basement utility entry. One technician brought over a tablet to walk me through the security system reset, showing me Kael's profile fully deleted from the digital roster, his fingerprint and facial biometrics wiped from the smart database. All old keycards and access codes were flagged as permanently invalid, the hardware locks physically swapped out so even a stolen original key could not open any door. All systems locked down. Ms. Voss, the lead technician, handed me a set of polished new brass physical keys and a sealed envelope filled with unique digital passcodes. No entry method remains active for Mr. Rothwell. Even if he attempts to hack the smart system remotely, the server will trigger an immediate estate security alert and notify local police. I signed their completion paperwork and tipped the team generously, watching as they loaded the old broken locks into the back of their truck to be destroyed off-site. Once their vehicle pulled through the gate, I carried all sealed storage crates to the garage, stacking them neatly beside the electric sports car Kael had gifted me for my birthday, another asset I planned to return to his office at dawn tomorrow. The mansion fell back into heavy silence, every trace of Kael scrubbed clean from every room, every access point sealed against his return. I poured a glass of cold white wine from the cellar and settled onto the ocean view sofa, staring out at the glittering city skyline far below the hill. I knew Kael would come back tonight. His downtown penthouse was currently under renovation, and he had no other permanent residence to stay in. He'd likely leave Lila at the gala's after party once his ego recovered from my public rejection, drive back to the villa drunk and arrogant, fully expecting to walk straight through the front door as he always had. The thought of his inevitable shock when the locks refused to open did not spark petty joy in me. It was simply a necessary consequence of his own choices. He'd chosen to humiliate me in front of every powerful person we knew, to pretend our 2-year relationship meant nothing to him. I had only matched his coldness with decisive, unshakable boundaries. Midnight ticked past 1 o'clock, then 2, as I sipped wine and reviewed legal documents on my tablet, prenuptial draft, joint property ownership records, witness statements from gala guests ready to confirm his public disavowal of our engagement. I mapped out tomorrow's next steps, return his creative belongings to Rothwell Group headquarters, issue a formal press release terminating the engagement, and schedule a meeting with my family's corporate lawyers to sever all cross-business ties between Voss and Rothwell Enterprises. The distant rumble of a sports car engine echoed up the winding hill road at 2:17 a.m. I set my wine glass down slowly, turning my gaze toward the front driveway's security camera feed pulled up on my tablet screen. Kael's matte black sports car pulled to a stop at the front gate, headlights flooding the stone walkway leading to the villa's front door. He stumbled out of the driver's seat, suit jacket slung over one arm, tie loose around his neck, hair messy from hours of drinking and arguing at the gala after party. I could see the flash of alcohol high on his cheeks even through the camera lens, his storm gray eyes bleary with rage and disbelief. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Chapter 2, Collapse outside the locked gate. Kael staggered up the heated stone walkway, his leather dress shoes scuffing the marble slabs as he moved unsteadily toward the front glass door. He fumbled in his suit trouser pocket for his master keycard, yanking it out and swiping it hard against the smart lock panel beside the door frame. A sharp, unyielding red error light flashed across the screen. A cold automated voice echoed out from the wall-mounted speaker, access denied. Credential invalid. No entry authorization on file. Kael froze, blinking hard as if he'd misheard the recording. He swiped the card a second time, faster, harder, jaw tight with growing irritation. The red light flashed again, the same robotic denial repeating through the speaker system. Access denied. Credential invalid. What the hell? He muttered under his breath, voice thick with alcohol, shoving the keycard back into his pocket and pressing his thumb flat against the fingerprint biometric scanner embedded in the lock panel. The scanner flickered blue for 3 seconds before shifting back to blazing red. Biometric profile not recognized. Entry forbidden. Confusion warped his features, slowly curling into hot, unbridled anger. He slammed his palm against the glass door hard enough to rattle the frame, the sound echoing through the quiet night. I watched from the living room sofa through the security camera feed, my expression calm, no flicker of sympathy stirring in my chest. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead against the cool glass, eyes scanning the dark interior of the mansion, searching for any sign of my silhouette through the floor-to-ceiling windows. All interior lights were dimmed to minimum brightness, only faint moonlight spilling through the glass, so he could not spot me sitting safely inside. Elara! He shouted my name, voice rough and hoarse, bouncing off the stone walls of the villa's courtyard. Elara, open this door right now. What kind of childish stunt is this? No response came from within the house. I sat motionless, sipping my wine, watching his unraveling on the tablet screen. He stumbled backward a few steps, running a hand roughly through his messy black hair, chest heaving with frustration. He pulled out his smartphone, tapping furiously at the screen, attempting to pull up the villa's smart home app to remotely unlock the front door. I watched his shoulders slump the second the app loaded a permanent error notification. All his administrative access permissions fully revoked. He dialed my cell number next, the screen of my tablet lighting up with his incoming call alert. I tapped the decline button without hesitation, sending his call straight to voicemail. He called 3 more times in quick succession, each ring rejected instantly, before he hurled his phone onto the stone walkway in a fit of drunken rage. The device skittered across the marble slabs, screen cracking down the center, rendering it useless. "Elara, don't you dare ignore me," he roared, pacing back and forth across the front patio, his velvet tuxedo jacket discarded on the ground beside the cracked phone. "This is my villa. You have no right to lock me out of my own property. This is ridiculous, petty behavior over a meaningless misunderstanding at the gala. A meaningless misunderstanding." The words hung heavy in the quiet night air, a bitter laugh huffing past my lips as I stared at the camera feed. He truly believed his public declaration that I was a stranger, his arm wrapped around his mistress for hundreds of elite witnesses, was nothing more than a trivial misstep I should brush aside and forgive. His arrogance had blinded him entirely to the gravity of his betrayal. He marched back to the glass door, pounding his fist hard against the pane over and over, each blow loud enough to echo through the empty hillside. "Open up. We need to talk this out like adults. That scene you pulled tonight embarrassed me in front of every business partner and family elder. You owe me an apology for making a spectacle of yourself." I raised an eyebrow at the camera. He blamed me for the gala's scandal, not his own choice to bring his mistress and disavow our 2-year engagement to the entire social elite. That entitled mindset was precisely why I'd chosen to cut every tie with him without a single backward glance. His shouting grew louder, more unhinged as the minutes ticked by, alcohol stripping away every last layer of his polished social composure. The cold night wind bit at his shirt-sleeved arms, and he wrapped his arms around his torso to fight off the chill, rage mixing with a faint flicker of panic on his face. "Elara, I know you're in there. I saw your town car pull up to the gate hours ago. Stop hiding behind locked doors and come out here to face me." I stood from the sofa and crossed the living room to stand directly behind the front glass door, hidden behind a thin linen curtain so he could see my silhouette but not my clear features. I pressed a button on the wall-mounted intercom speaker beside the lock, activating the external microphone so my voice would carry clearly outside without me needing to open the door. My tone was even, cool, free of anger or sorrow, cutting through his drunken screaming like a blade. "You publicly stated I am a stranger to you tonight, Kael. Strangers do not hold access to private residential property owned jointly by both parties. I have fully revoked all your entry privileges and replaced every lock on this villa, per my equal legal claim to the home." He froze mid-pace, head snapping toward the speaker mounted above the door frame, stunned to hear my voice respond to his shouting. His face flushed bright red with a mix of humiliation and fury. "Are you insane? You can't just swap every lock and lock me out of my own house over one stupid gala comment. I was networking with investors. Lila was only a business contact. I had to create distance to avoid rumors about our engagement disrupting the merger talks." I let out a quiet, hollow chuckle through the intercom, unimpressed by his transparent excuse. A business contact does not wear a scarlet gown designed to compete with my engagement dress, nor does a business contact get escorted by your arm as your primary date to the year's most important elite gala. You chose to parade your mistress in front of our entire social circle and deny knowing me entirely. Do not attempt to rewrite the facts to justify your betrayal." His voice cracked, the arrogant confidence slipping fast, replaced by desperate pleading he'd never stooped to show in front of other people. "I didn't mean any of it, Elara. I panicked when I spotted you across the ballroom. I didn't have time to explain the situation to the crowd before everyone started watching us. I never intended to hurt you. Can't we just put this behind us?" I'll send Lila away permanently, cut all contact with her, apologize to every guest at the gala tomorrow morning. Whatever you want, just unlock the door and let me inside to talk. There is nothing left to discuss, I replied flatly. I formally terminated our engagement in front of hundreds of witnesses tonight. All joint assets will be divided per our prenuptial agreement starting tomorrow morning. Your belongings are packed in storage crates in the garage. My driver will deliver them to your downtown penthouse by noon. You will not set foot inside this villa again. Panic fully overtook his features now, the drunken anger melting into raw, unhinged desperation. He stumbled forward to press his palms flat against the glass door, staring directly at my shadow behind the linen curtain, voice cracking with emotion. These houses are life together, Elara. Every wall, every piece of furniture, every memory we built here, you can't throw all of that away over one mistake. I love you, I've always loved you, don't make me pay for a single moment of poor judgment with everything we worked for. Love does not publicly erase your partner to make space for a mistress, I answered without hesitation. Love does not hide 6 months of secret affairs behind endless lies and fabricated business excuses. You threw our shared life away the second you walked through that gala's doors with Lila on your arm. I am only cleaning up the mess you created. He slammed his fist against the glass once more, hard enough to leave faint smudges on the clear pane, his voice breaking into a ragged, hysterical shout that echoed across the quiet hillside estate. You're throwing away 2 years of us over a girl who means nothing. You're being cold, heartless, completely unreasonable. What am I supposed to do tonight if you won't let me in? My penthouse is under full renovation, I have nowhere else to stay. That is not my concern, I said, shutting down the intercom microphone mid-sentence, cutting off his frantic begging instantly. I stepped away from the front door's curtain, returning to the living room sofa, and pulled up the security camera feed once more to watch his total breakdown unfold outside the locked gate. Kael stood frozen against the glass for a full minute, processing the sudden silence after my voice cut off. Then his shoulders crumpled completely, all his tough, arrogant veneer shattering into jagged pieces. He sank down onto the cold marble walkway, knees pulled tight to his chest, head buried in his hands, quiet broken sobs shaking his entire frame. The man who'd spent 2 years projecting unshakable power and icy composure for the entire elite world sat sobbing, alone outside the villa he once claimed was ours, locked out by the woman he publicly discarded hours prior. He stayed hunched on the patio stone for over an hour, alternating between quiet weeping and muffled, incoherent pleas toward the silent glass door. Several times he stood to pound at the lock panel again, swiping his useless keycard in a futile attempt to gain entry, before sinking back onto the ground in defeat each time the red access denied light flashed. At 3:45 a.m., a rideshare vehicle pulled up to the front gate, summoned by a frantic text he managed to send from his cracked phone before its battery died. He dragged himself unsteadily to the car, pausing one last time to glare back at the dark villa windows, his face streaked with tear tracks and cold night dew, before climbing into the back seat and driving away from the locked gate. I watched the taillights of the rideshare car wind down the hill road until they vanished around the oak tree bend, then closed the security camera app on my tablet and set the device aside. No flicker of guilt weighed on my chest. I had not manipulated him, lied to him, or betrayed him in front of hundreds of powerful witnesses. Every consequence he faced tonight was a direct result of his own deliberate choices. I finished the last sip of my chilled white wine, set the empty glass on the marble coffee table, and climbed the floating staircase to the master bedroom. The room was stripped of every trace of his presence, quiet and clean, only my personal belongings filling the wardrobe and vanity. I slid beneath the silk duvet, staring out the floor-to-ceiling glass wall at the distant glowing city skyline, and let the weight of 2 years of hidden anxiety lift from my shoulders for the first time in half a year. The battle was far from over. Kael would not surrender our broken engagement or the joint assets easily. and Lila would almost certainly stir up tabloid chaos to cling to the fleeting social spotlight she'd gained from the gala scandal. The Rothwell family would pressure me to reconcile with Kael to protect the cross-family business merger, and the entire elite social circle would dissect every detail of tonight's spectacle for weeks to come. But I held every advantage. Witness statements from dozens of gala guests confirming his public disavowal of our engagement, full legal documentation of my equal property claim to the villa, pre-negotiated prenuptial terms ready to divide all shared assets, and a family legal team with decades of experience outmaneuvering the Rothwell corporate lawyers. Kael's midnight breakdown outside the locked front gate was only the first small defeat in a long string of losses he would face in the weeks ahead. I had no intention of softening my boundaries, no desire to forgive his public betrayal, and zero interest in rebuilding a relationship built on his endless lies and secret infidelity. Tomorrow, I would begin the formal process of severing every single tie between Elara Voss and Kael Rothwell permanently. Chapter 3, Morning Reckoning与 Rothwell Corporate Chaos. I woke at 7 a.m. the next morning, sunlight streaming through the master bedroom's floor-to-ceiling ocean windows, no lingering trace of last night's chaotic midnight confrontation weighing on my mind. I pulled on a simple cream linen dress and white leather loafers, descending the staircase to the kitchen to brew a pot of fresh black coffee, scrolling through the overnight news alerts on my tablet while the machine dripped hot liquid into a ceramic mug. Every major elite tabloid and business news platform had blown up with front-page coverage of last night's Imperial Wealth Gala scandal. Headlines screamed across my screen. Heir disavows fiancé at top gala, brings Mistress estate. Voss heiress drops engagement ring, walks out on Rothwell heir mid-event. Hilltop villa locks out Rothwell after public betrayal. Embedded within every article were the hidden camera photos captured at the ballroom, Kael's arm wrapped tightly around Lila's waist, his cold statement that I was a stranger, the moment I dropped the emerald engagement ring into his tuxedo pocket and turned to exit the venue. Comment sections beneath each story split sharply between socialites condemning Kael's cruel public humiliation and a small group of Rothwell loyalists claiming I'd overreacted to a trivial business networking plot. I sipped my coffee calmly, scrolling past the speculative gossip without a single emotional reaction, and opened an email thread with my family's lead corporate attorney, Ms. Hale. I sent her a formal written statement terminating the Voss-Rothwell engagement, attached witness contact information from 10 gala guests willing to provide official testimony, and outlined my demands for equal division of all jointly held property and assets per our signed prenuptial contract. A reply pinged back within 5 minutes, Ms. Hale confirming she would forward the termination notice to Rothwell Group's legal department by 9 a.m., and schedule a formal asset mediation meeting for the end of the week. After finishing my coffee, I texted my personal driver to deliver all of Kael's packed storage crates from the villa garage to Rothwell Group's downtown headquarters by noon, with a signed note attached to the top bin stating all personal belongings were returned following the official engagement termination. No further contact requests accepted. I spent the mid-morning walking the villa's rooftop herb garden, tending to the basil and mint plants I'd planted the summer prior, breathing in the fresh ocean breeze rolling over the hilltop. For the first time in months, I did not carry a constant low-level anxiety waiting for Kael's next lie or hidden secret to surface. Without the weight of his betrayal hanging over my every thought, the quiet peace of the mansion finally settled over me fully. A sharp ring from the villa's landline phone pulled me back inside the house shortly after 9 a.m. The caller ID displayed Rothwell Group Corporate Office Kael's personal executive assistant, Clara. I answered the call, placing the receiver to my ear with steady composure. Ms. Voss, good morning. Clara's voice sounded frazzled, strained with stress. Mr. Rothwell has arrived at the office this morning in a highly agitated state. He has requested I reach out to you to beg for a meeting to discuss resolving last night's gala incident privately. There is nothing to resolve, I replied flatly, I have formally terminated our engagement via legal counsel this morning. All shared asset negotiations will take place exclusively between our respective legal teams. I will not be meeting with Kael one-on-one, and I request you relay that message clearly to him. Clara hesitated, on the line, audibly uncomfortable mediating her boss's messy personal scandal. Mr. Rothwell insists he has critical information to explain his actions at the gala, and he is prepared to issue a full public apology to you and every gala attendee if you will agree to speak with him face-to-face. A public apology holds no weight after he spent months hiding his affair with Lila May and publicly disavowing my identity in front of hundreds of elite witnesses last night, I responded. No private meeting will change the legal termination of our engagement or the permanent revocation of his villa access. Please do not pass along any further contact requests from Kael to my personal lines. I ended the call before Clara could relay any more of Kael's desperate pleas, setting the landline receiver back into its cradle on the kitchen counter. I knew Kael would resort to every possible channel to reach me over the coming days, his assistant, mutual social acquaintances, even distant family members, but I had zero intention of entertaining any of his attempts to reconcile. By 11:30 a.m., my driver texted confirmation that all storage crates holding Kael's belongings had been delivered to Rothwell Group's lobby reception desk, signed for by Clara's administrative team. I pulled up the live security feed for the villa's front gate, watching as a black luxury sedan pulled up to the entrance 20 minutes later, Kael stepping out of the vehicle alongside his corporate lawyer, Mr. Bennett. He showered and changed into a crisp tailored gray suit, the red rim as from last night's breakdown still visible beneath his sunglasses, his posture rigid with barely contained frustration. His lawyer carried a thick leather portfolio filled with property deeds and legal documents, following Kael up the stone walkway to the front glass door. Kael swiped a brand new spare keycard his legal team had sourced from old property records against the smart lock panel, expecting the hardware to unlock instantly. The same red access denied light flashed across the screen, the robotic denial voice echoing through the external speaker once more. He ripped the sunglasses off his face, tossing them onto the walkway in a fit of fresh rage, and slammed his fist against the glass door hard enough to rattle the frame. His lawyer stepped forward, placing a hand on Kael's shoulder to calm him, pulling out a formal legal notice from his portfolio and holding it up to the glass for me to read through the window. I activated the external intercom microphone once more, my voice cool and unyielding as it carried outside. Mr. Bennett, I have already received the legal asset division paperwork your firm sent to my attorney's inbox this morning. All negotiations will proceed through official legal channels only. This property's locks and access permissions have been lawfully replaced per my equal joint ownership claim. There is no temporary access order granting Mr. Rothwell entry to the villa at this time. The lawyer, Mr. Bennett, stepped closer to the glass, speaking in a calm, professional tone to avoid escalating Kael's volatile mood. Ms. Voss, our client holds primary title to the villa's deed, and he is requesting temporary access to retrieve additional personal items he left within the master office and wine cellar. We can provide a court-ordered temporary entry warrant if required. All of Mr. Rothwell's personal possessions were packed and delivered to Rothwell Group headquarters by noon today, I corrected him. Every item belonging to him has been removed from the premises. No further retrieval requests will be honored, temporary warrant or otherwise. If your firm wishes to contest my joint property rights, file a formal civil claim with the county court. My legal team will respond accordingly. Kael cut in, shoving his lawyer aside to press his palms flat against the glass door, voice raw and desperate as he shouted toward the speaker. Elara, don't hide behind legal loopholes. Just let me inside for 10 minutes to talk. I'll leave immediately after. I promise I won't cause a scene. I made a terrible mistake last night. I regret every word I said about you at the gala, I've broken every tie with Lila permanently. Can't you give me a single chance to make this right? There are no second chances for public betrayal of this magnitude, I answered, shutting off the intercom microphone without another word, leaving him screaming unheard pleas against the silent glass door. I watched through the security camera feed as Kael and his lawyer lingered outside the locked gate for 40 minutes, attempting multiple failed access methods, arguing heatedly with each other, before finally climbing back into the sedan and driving away from the hilltop villa. Shortly after their departure, my phone buzzed with a flood of incoming texts from mutual social friends, all begging me to reconsider cutting ties with Kael, framing his gala actions as a moment of stupid panic rather than deliberate betrayal. I archived every unread message without responding, blocking several acquaintances who sent repeated pleading requests to mediate a reconciliation between us. That afternoon, I sat down at the villa's home office desk and drafted a short, formal public statement to release to all elite media outlets, outlining the official termination of the Voss-Rothwell engagement, confirming my equal joint claim to the Azure Ridge Villa, and clarifying that all future personal and business inquiries would be directed to my legal counsel. The statement contained no dramatic insults, no detailed recounting of Kael's affair with Lila, no emotional accusations, only cold, factual clarity that the 2-year engagement had been permanently dissolved, with no plans for reconciliation. It stripped Kael of any ability to spin a sympathetic narrative to the public, removing every ounce of control he'd attempted to grasp after last night's gala scandal. As I submitted the statement to my media relations manager for distribution across all major elite publications, I glanced out the office window at the quiet, empty front patio where Kael had broken down sobbing outside the locked gate mere hours before dawn. His midnight collapse outside the villa was only the first blow to his carefully constructed perfect heir persona. The coming weeks would bring mounting business losses, fractured family alliances, tabloid scrutiny of his 6-month affair with Lila, and costly legal battles over our shared assets, all consequences of the choice he'd made to humiliate me in front of every powerful person in our social circle. I had no desire to destroy his entire empire out of petty revenge. My only goal was to sever every tie between us, reclaim my independence, and build a life untethered to the lies and betrayal he'd wrapped around me for 2 years. The locked villa gates were only the first boundary I'd drawn to protect my peace moving forward. Chapter 4: Lila's desperate media stance与 Rothwell stock collapse. 3 days after the gala scandal, tabloid media exploded with front-page photos of Lila May staging a tearful photo shoot outside Rothwell Group's downtown office tower. She wore the same scarlet silk gown from the Imperial Wealth Gala, heavy dark eye makeup smashed beneath her eyes to simulate fresh crying, clutching a small diamond necklace Kael had gifted her during their secret affair for the cameras lined up along the sidewalk. Reporters shouted rapid-fire questions at her as she posed for the paparazzi microphones held inches from her face, and she delivered a rehearsed, fragile speech crafted to paint herself as the innocent victim caught between Kael and our broken engagement. I never intended to come between Kael and his fiancée, she whispered, voice trembling for the recording devices. Kael told me their relationship had already fallen apart months ago, that Elara was cold and distant and refused to give him the emotional support he needed. I believed him when he said our connection was real. I had no idea he would publicly disavow her at the gala and spark this massive scandal. I'm heartbroken that I've become caught in the middle of their messy split. Video clips of her stage sob session circulated across every elite social media platform within hours, and online comment sections quickly split between readers sympathizing with her fabricated innocent act and others pointing out the obvious calculated media stunt to cling to Kael's wealth and social status. I received a forwarded copy of the tabloid footage from my media manager that morning, along with a note that Lila's social media accounts had gained over 100,000 new followers overnight, all drawn to the dramatic gala love triangle scandal. I watched the clip once, scrolling past her tearful performance without a flicker of emotional reaction, and forwarded the footage straight to my corporate attorney to file as evidence of Lila's intentional media harassment of me and my family's reputation. Ms. Hale, my lawyer, called me an hour later to update me on the rapidly shifting landscape of the Rothwell Group's business standing following the gala scandal. Rothwell Global's stock dropped 12% in 3 trading days, she explained, her tone crisp and professional. Multiple long-term investment partners have pulled out of the cross-family merger talks between Voss and Rothwell Enterprises, citing reputational damage from Kael's public infidelity and cruel treatment of you at the gala. Several luxury brand sponsorships tied to the Rothwell heir's public image have issued formal termination notices, pulling multi-million-dollar marketing contracts effective immediately. I leaned back against the villa's office desk, absorbing the news without surprise. The Rothwell empire had long relied on Kael's polished, perfect family heir public persona to secure investor trust and brand partnerships. His public betrayal of me at the gala, paired with Lila's viral tabloid drama, had shattered that carefully curated image irreparably. Have the Rothwell legal team reached out to adjust the asset mediation timeline? I asked, swirling my cold herbal tea in a ceramic mug. They requested an emergency in-person mediation meeting tomorrow afternoon, pushing to accelerate the property division negotiations, Ms. Hale confirmed. Kael has personally demanded the villa's deed be transferred fully to his name, arguing he covered the initial down payment for the Azure Ridge estate 2 years prior. We have full financial records proving you matched half the renovation and furnishing costs, which will counter his sole ownership claim easily in court if necessary. Attend the mediation tomorrow without me, I instructed my attorney. I will not be present for any in-person meeting with Kael. Push our formal demand, equal split of all liquid joint assets, the villa's deed transferred to my sole ownership in exchange for a cash buyout of his initial down payment sum, and complete severance of all Voss-Rothwell business merger agreements with no financial penalties for our family's early withdrawal. Ms. Hale agreed to carry my negotiation demands to the mediation table the next day, promising to send live real-time updates via secure email throughout the meeting. After ending the call with my attorney, I decided to leave the villa for the first time since the gala, driving my electric sports car to the Voss family's private downtown art gallery to oversee a new exhibition opening scheduled for the end of the week. As I pulled through the city's central business district, I spotted a line of paparazzi camped outside the Rothwell Group Tower's front entrance, waiting for any glimpse of Kael or Lila to capture new scandal footage for the tabloids. I parked my vehicle in the gallery's underground private garage, avoiding the crowded sidewalk press, and spent the afternoon reviewing oil paintings and curating exhibition displays with the gallery's curator, fully separating my mind from the endless Rothwell drama swirling through the city's elite circles. Focusing on the quiet, steady work of the family art business grounded me, a sharp contrast to the chaotic, performative high society world Kael had dragged me into over our 2-year engagement. When I returned to the Azure Ridge villa as dusk fell, my security team alerted me to a strange vehicle parked at the bottom of the hill's winding access road. Lila's small white convertible sports car, abandoned beside the oak tree bend, with her lingering figure visible pacing the sidewalk near the estate's main iron gate. I pulled up the long-range exterior security camera feed on my tablet, zooming in to watch Lila clutching a small leather handbag, staring up the hill toward the villa's glowing rooftop lights, as if hoping Kael would somehow emerge from. Chapter 3, Lila's desperate media stance, Rothwell stock collapse. Lila lingered at the foot of the hill for nearly 2 hours, periodically glancing at her phone, pacing back and forth along the sidewalk, occasionally glancing up the oak-lined drive as if expecting Kael's black sports car to come roaring down the slope. When no one appeared, she finally climbed into her convertible and sped away into the deepening twilight, her white taillights vanishing around the bend. I archived the footage and sent a copy to my attorney's office, adding it to the growing file of documented harassment and media manipulation by Kael's mistress. Each piece of evidence I collected would serve as quiet ammunition if Lila escalated her tabloid antics into formal legal claims against me or the Voss family's reputation. That night, I received a long, rambling voice message from Kael's personal number, left on my private line while I was in the shower. His voice sounded ragged, hoarse, stripped of all the arrogant confidence he'd displayed at the gala just 3 nights earlier. Elara, please, I'm begging you. Lila is out of control. She's been leaking fabricated stories to every tabloid she can reach, twisting the narrative to make herself the victim, and the board is threatening to remove me from my executive position if I can't stabilize the stock price before the quarterly shareholders meeting. I know I hurt you, I know I betrayed your trust, but I need your help. A public statement from you confirming we ended things amicably would kill these rumors instantly. Just 1 sentence, 1 interview, 1 joint appearance. I'll do whatever you ask in return. Please. I listened to the full 3-minute message, then deleted it without replying. His desperation had finally stripped away every last layer of his polished charm, revealing the naked panic of a man watching his carefully built empire crumble under the weight of his own choices. But his plea for my cooperation contained no genuine remorse, no acknowledgement of the depths of the betrayal he'd committed, only a transactional calculation that I might save his reputation if he offered the right incentives. I had no interest in being anyone's lifeline after they publicly drunk me in front of the entire elite world. Over the following week, the storm surrounding the Rothwell empire intensified with every passing day. Lila May's media campaign shifted tactics. She appeared on a high-profile gossip podcast, tearfully recounting a fictionalized version of her affair with Kael, painting him as a misunderstood romantic trapped in a cold, loveless engagement with a calculated social climber who had manipulated his family into the merger. She never named me directly, but every coded reference pointed unmistakably at the Voss family and our quiet, measured approach to wealth and influence. The podcast episode went viral within hours. Comment sections flooded with heated debates, a faction of younger socialites rallying behind Lila's victim narrative, older elite families condemning her as a mercenary opportunist trying to claw her way into high society through scandal, and a growing chorus of neutral observers pointing out the glaring inconsistencies in her ever-shifting story. I maintained complete public silence throughout the media frenzy. No rebuttal interviews, no defensive social media posts, no angry press releases refuting her claims. My only official communication came through my attorney's office, a brief formal statement reiterating that all matters regarding my engagement, termination and asset division were being handled through legal channels, with no further commentary offered to the press. That restraint infuriated Lila more than any counterattack could have. She craved a public feud, a back-and-forth war of words that would keep her name on every gossip column for months. My silence robbed her of that oxygen, forcing her increasingly desperate stunts to generate engagement without my participation. By the end of the 2nd week, Rothwell Global's stock had plummeted 22% from its pre-gala high. 3 major luxury brand partnerships had officially terminated their endorsement contracts with the Rothwell heir, citing reputational misalignment in carefully worded corporate press releases. 2 long-time Rothwell family allies had publicly distanced themselves from Kael, issuing statements expressing deep concern over the gala incident and its implications for the family's ethical standing in the business community. Kael's father, Marcus Rothwell, the aging patriarch who had built the conglomerate from a modest real estate firm into a regional financial empire, personally called my family's estate to request an urgent private meeting with me. I accepted the call through my attorney's screen line, listening as his gravelly voice carried a weight of age and weary disappointment. Elara, I won't waste your time with excuses for my son's behavior, Marcus said, his tone unusually subdued. I raised Kael to be better than this. I taught him that a man's word and his honor are the only currencies that matter when everything else falls away. He broke that code publicly and shamelessly. I am not here to ask you to forgive him or take him back. I am here to ask you to consider the broader consequences of this feud on both our family's long-term interests. I listened quietly, allowing him to finish his appeal before responding. Mr. Rothwell, I respect the empire you built and the integrity you've shown throughout your career. But I will not sacrifice my dignity or my family's reputation to stabilize the consequences of your son's deliberate betrayal. The Voss family has always operated with transparency and respect in all our business dealings. Kael's actions at the gala were a public declaration that I held no value to him, and I have simply honored that declaration by removing myself from his life entirely. Marcus sighed heavily on the line, a sound of pure paternal exhaustion. I understand your position completely. I would not ask any daughter of mine to reconcile with a man who treated her that way. But I am asking, pleading, really for a path toward quiet, dignified separation rather than public warfare. Let me arrange a fair, generous settlement that leaves both parties whole and allows our families to heal without dragging every private grievance through the courts and tabloids. I am open to a fair settlement, I replied carefully. But the terms must recognize my equal stake in the Azure Ridge Villa, my full legal right to have the joint assets accrued during our engagement, and a binding agreement that neither Kael nor Lila will ever publicly reference me or my family in any future media statements. If those conditions are met, I am willing to sign a complete severance and walk away from this chapter without further conflict. Marcus agreed to review the terms with his legal team and return with a formal settlement proposal within 48 hours. I ended the call with a sense of guarded relief. A negotiated resolution through the family patriarch would be far cleaner and less costly than a protracted courtroom battle, sparing both sides the spectacle of drawn-out litigation. But Kael, predictably, did not share his father's pragmatic wisdom. 2 days later, my attorney received an aggressive counterproposal drafted by Kael's personal legal team, a demand that I vacate the Azure Ridge Villa within 30 days, surrender all claims to the property, and sign a non-disclosure agreement preventing me from ever discussing the engagement or the gala incident publicly in exchange for a paltry cash settlement that barely covered the renovation costs I'd personally funded. Ms. Hale called me immediately upon reviewing the document, her voice carrying uncharacteristic sharpness. This counteroffer is borderline insulting, Ms. Voss. Kael's team is clearly trying to intimidate you into accepting a fraction of your rightful share, hoping you'll fold rather than fight a prolonged legal battle. Do you want me to prepare a formal rebuttal and escalation to court filings? No, I said calmly. Forward the counterproposal to Marcus Rothwell directly, with a note that if his son insists on playing hardball, I will file the full witness testimonies from the gala with the court and release a complete timeline of Kael's 6-month affair, including financial records, hotel receipts, and text message evidence to every major publication that requests access. Tell Marcus this is not a threat. It is a promise of transparency. If Kael chooses to fight dirty, I will match his strategy with overwhelming documentation. Ms. Hale chuckled quietly on the line. That will land like a bomb in the Rothwell boardroom. I'll forward it immediately. True to my attorney's prediction, Marcus Rothwell called me directly within 4 hours, his voice strained with barely controlled frustration directed entirely at his son, not at me. Elara, I apologize for that absurd counteroffer. Kael drafted it without my knowledge or approval, and I have instructed my legal team to withdraw it immediately. We will accept your original settlement terms in full, sole ownership of the Azure Ridge Villa transferred to you, equal division of all joint liquid assets, and a binding media silence agreement covering both Kael and Lila. I will personally ensure my son signs every document and abides by every condition. You have my word as the head of the Rothwell family. Thank you, Mr. Rothwell, I responded, keeping my voice measured and professional. I appreciate your willingness to resolve this matter with dignity. Once the signed agreements are in my attorney's hands, I will consider this chapter closed. The settlement documents arrived via courier the following morning, signed by Kael's hand, on every page a signature that appeared rushed, jagged, almost reluctant, but legally binding nonetheless. Marcus had clearly applied immense pressure on his heir to capitulate, prioritizing the family's long-term survival over his son's bruised ego. I signed the documents alongside Ms. Hale in the villa's home office, watching the ink dry on the final page as the morning sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling ocean windows. With that stroke of the pen, every financial and legal tie between Elara Voss and Kael Rothwell was severed permanently. The Azure Ridge Villa belonged entirely to me. The joint accounts were split. The business mergers were dissolved. And Kael was legally bound to never utter my name in any public forum for the duration of his lifetime. I set the signed copies in a sealed legal folder and handed them to Ms. Hale for formal filing with the county court. Then I walked to the villa's rooftop garden, standing among the fragrant herbs and flowering shrubs I'd planted with my own hands, gazing out at the vast blue horizon where the ocean met the sky. 2 years of my life had been invested in a man who ultimately saw me as a disposable accessory, a social asset to be discarded the moment his mistress offered fresh novelty. But I had not emerged from that investment broken or diminished. I had emerged with a clear-eyed understanding of my own worth, a fortified legal position, and a beautiful home entirely my own, free from the weight of his lies, his secrets, and his hollow promises. I had no plans to rush into another relationship. No desire to fill the emptiness with rebound romance or performative social appearances. My focus would remain on rebuilding my life on my own terms, expanding the Voss family's art gallery portfolio, deepening my involvement in charitable foundations I'd quietly supported for years, and rediscovering the quiet pleasures of solitude that Kael's constant demands had long crowded out. As the afternoon sun dipped lower over the Pacific, casting a golden haze across the hilltop estate, I pulled up my phone and called my younger sister, Mira, who had been studying abroad in Paris for the past year. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright and warm. "Elara, I've been watching the news non-stop. Are you okay? Do I need to book a flight home immediately to come defend your honor?" I laughed softly, the first genuine laugh I'd let out in weeks. "I'm better than okay, Myra. I'm free. The settlement is finalized, the villa is mine, and Kael is out of my life permanently. I was thinking maybe I should come visit you in Paris next month. I need a change of scenery, and I haven't seen you in almost a year." Myra squealed with excitement on the other end of the line. "Yes. Absolutely yes. I'll clear my entire schedule, we'll do all the museums and galleries, eat croissants in the Jardin du Luxembourg, and you can tell me every single detail of how you made that arrogant bastard crawl." I smiled, leaning against the rooftop railing as the warm breeze ruffled my hair. "I'll tell you everything. But more importantly, I want to talk about the future. About what comes next for me. I spent 2 years building a life around someone else's dreams. It's time to build one around my own." Myra's voice turned soft, serious, filled with sisterly affection. "I'm so proud of you, Elara. You walked away from the most powerful man in our circle with more dignity than anyone has ever seen. And you came out owning his house. That's legendary." We talked for another hour, catching up on Myra's art history studies, her new Parisian friends, her casual fling with a charming gallery owner who treated her far better than Kael had ever treated me. By the time I ended the call, the stars had begun to emerge over the ocean, scattered diamonds across the deep violet sky. I descended from the rooftop into the villa's quiet living room, no trace of Kael's belongings or presence lingering in any corner. The house smelled of fresh chamomile tea and the ocean breeze drifting through the open terrace doors. I curled up on the Italian leather sofa I'd selected myself, pulling a cashmere throw over my legs, and opened a new notebook on the marble coffee table. I picked up my pen and let my thoughts flow onto the page, not as a rigid list but as a quiet declaration to myself. I would expand the Voss Art Gallery to 3 new locations within 2 years, building something enduring that bore only my name and vision. I would launch a foundation dedicated to emerging female artists, creating opportunities one had once wished existed for myself. I would travel to 6 countries I had never visited, filling my passport with stamps that had nothing to do with business obligations or a fiancé's itinerary. I would learn to be entirely, joyfully alone, not as a punishment or a period of mourning, but as a conscious choice to rediscover who I was without anyone else's expectations pressing down on me. And above all, I would never again let another person define my worth, measure my value, or reduce me to an accessory in their life story. I closed the notebook, set it aside, and let the gentle rhythm of the ocean waves fill the quiet space around me. The locked gates of Azure Ridge would remain closed to anyone who didn't value what lay within. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt utterly, completely at home in my own skin. The reckoning was over. The rebuilding had just begun.